Hi, this is the Nature Podcast with Evalottafilms. And today I thought we'd talk about the importance of keeping it simple when talking about climate change. The 26th Climate Change Conference is upon us, and nations will gather soon to deliberate how to keep their promises around climate change, the promises they made when they formed the Paris Agreement. It turns out that the measures that countries have committed to so far are not enough to reach the goal, to not have the Earth's temperature, global warming, rise more than 2 degrees, or preferably 1.5 by 2030. And so, as we say, the situation is dire. That's something that's been said many times before, and it doesn't seem to help. And that's where I think simplicity comes in. Do we even know what we're teaching when we're talking about climate change? So I thought we'd talk about simplicity in regards to talking about climate change without having eyes glaze over across the table from you when you bring up the topic. And while it is a complex issue, of course, it can also be made simple. What global warming really is exactly that. The temperature here on Earth is rising beyond habitable conditions, and it's doing so because of greenhouse gases. And CO2 is such a gas, it forms a large part of the greenhouse gases that we emit. And what the greenhouse gases are doing is basically trapping the heat on Earth. And so it's getting too hot here. And so we have flooding and fires and so on. If only we had a solution. If we only had something that could absorb carbon dioxide and produce air instead. If only we had something that prevented soil erosion and slowed floodwaters. If only we had something to preserve our ecosystem and provide a habitat for the wild animals that we're trying to keep from going extinct. Oh, wait, we do have such a solution. We have trees and forests. So why are we cutting them down? A study found that if we were to reforest an area as large as the United States, we could cut greenhouse gas emissions by 25%, reaching at least half the goal by 2030 by doing so. So that's why I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the importance of simplicity, the simplicity of trees. It's important to regrow, to not cut down our forests, of course, in the first place. And I know that that's a contentious and political and complex issue, but it can also be simplified because CO2 is basically eaten by trees, so they are the perfect solution. The only issue now is that it takes time to grow forests, and the Earth's temperature have already risen so much that reforestation in some places is not possible. And in order to be a carbon sink, meaning the forests eat more carbon than they produce, they need to have time to mature as a forest. So we better start planting. It is, of course, I understand, a complex issue. You can't just grow any trees anywhere and so on. But I keep coming back to trees as the solutions, as you know. And we'll be speaking about this complex issue further and hopefully making it more simple. This is the Nature Podcast with Eva-Lotta Films. Hope to speak to you again very soon.